Yeah, airways never.
Was it really bad?
Yeah.
There was that car fire.
Yeah.
A fire going on last minute. So we were, I saw pictures.
Okay.
Meeting at started. Good afternoon and welcome to our June 3rd, 2024 Livermore Amador Valley Transit Authority regular Board of Directors meeting. If we can all please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll move on to item number 2, which is our roll call members.
Yes, Vice Chair Brennan.
Yeah.
Director Brown is absent. Director Howard,
Present.
Director Josie,
Present.
Livermore alternate Marchand,
Present.
Director Tessa,
Here.
Chair Hernandez,
Present.
Director Brown.
Here.
Quorum.
Great, so we'll go ahead and go to item number 3, which is meeting open to the public. Members of the audience can address the board of directors on any matter within the general subject matter jurisdiction of the LAVTA board of directors. Do we have any public comment? They do have 3 minutes for public comment. Any public comments?
We did receive public comment through email from Stephen Dunbar, and I'll just paraphrase. He provided feedback, concerns, and options regarding the dairy and detour in Pleasanton. He noted that staff is beginning to install noise reduction devices on our existing buses to reduce the air noise and hopes this may help reduce negative impacts for any of the rerouting options he listed. This public comment has been sent to the board and it's also posted on our website.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the May Tri-Valley Festival Advisory Committee minutes.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez. Herb Hastings, was supposed to join us for this meeting. Is there, okay, great.
Herb, can you go ahead and unmute?
There it is. I was all trying myself. Now I gotta do the camera. It's if you want to see this face. Hi, everybody. It's been a while since I've seen everybody. Let's see. I'm giving a report for the May 1st meeting because I was the appointed chairman for the meeting at the May meeting. So let's see. We reviewed the upcoming applications for the current membership status that's beginning in July. And committees, and we also established the coming year's fiscal year 25's calendar schedule. And then we also, members report on various issues between both fixed route and diorite, including in lighting in some of the shelters. That means a couple of street shelters should have some additional lighting installed. And we're making an invitation if you would be willing to join remotely during our meetings. It would be a very nice invitation that we are offering as well. And that's really the report. So would anyone have any questions or any comments?
Any questions from the board?
You'll send us the online invitation?
Yes, absolutely. And then you were Herb, you were making a comment about having additional lighting on some of the shelves.
Yeah, it's the shelters, the bus fixed route shelter
Okay.
stops. Some of the lights, some of the devices are either burned out or not working properly. And it's mostly because of the evening hours. And since now it is summer again, people are hopefully going to be using the buses a lot more getting around town. especially over there at First and Neil, starting this Friday night. So let's have the maintenance department check into looking at the shelters so that there's adequate lighting.
Okay, perfect. And it looks like Christie's already on that.
Yeah.
So thank you for the update.
Sure.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
All righty.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye. We'll move on to our consent, item number 5, our consent agenda. Would any of the members like to
I'd like to pull 5C for some comments.
5C?
Me too.
Great ones to go.
There, you go first. You
That's
guys?
the one I was.
All right. Then we will pull 5C, then I will go ahead and ask for the motion for the remainder of the consent calendar.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion second, please take the.
Yes, Vice Chair Branning,
Aye.
Dr. Brown,
Hi.
Dr. Hubbard,
Aye.
Dr. Josie. Livermore alternate Martin.
I will vote aye, but I'll abstain on 5A because I wasn't here for the minutes.
Okay, and Director Testa,
Aye.
Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
motion passes.
All right, so, did you have a comment, question, or do you want a report on item?
Well, okay, so I've got some comments.
5C?
So 8.5A, voting leave shall be granted to employees who do not have sufficient time outside of working hours to vote. We give people a month to vote by mail. So if you can't find time to vote, you can bring your ballot into LAVTA, and I'm sure that we have a mailbox here. So do we really need that?
I mean, you raised a very good point.
So back in the day,
Right.
I go back to when
You only had one day.
it was one day to vote, and it was 8 in until 6 at night, and sometimes people, like firefighters, you would work through that. But people now have a month to vote. And you can vote by mail, you don't need to be anywhere, you just drop in the mailbox, so I just question, do we really need that?
We don't, honestly, I've been permanent absentee for like 2 decades
Yeah,
and didn't realize everybody could vote by mail now. So, I didn't take it out and our legal department didn't flag it either, so we can take that out, it's not a problem.
to me, it just looked, it looks silly, yeah, because,
Yes, it
because
would be.
how much time are we going to give somebody off? Because it used to be, it was 2 hours, you had 2 hours to vote, so, so how much time are we going to grant it? Because it doesn't tell how much time is allowed. So, I think we strike it, because to me, it's no longer, it's no longer relevant, thank you. And then also, if we hire someone from a temp agency, are they granted benefits from LAVTA?
No,
Well, if we hire them as an employee from the temp agency, once they become an employee, they're granted benefits. But if they're working still technically for the temp agency, no.
Okay, so, on 5.3, paid sick leave, temporary employees only.
Oh, sorry, those are for temporary part-time interns. They are not from a temporary agency.
Okay, but I'm saying, but it says, paid sick leave may be used for the diagnosis, care, et cetera, existing health condition of a temporary employee. And this just sounds strange to me as well. So the health condition of a temporary employee, so you haven't defined a temporary employee necessarily. And certain family members of the employee, including the employee's designated person. That almost sounds like ownership. That's my designated person over there, rather than the person that I designate.
I don't have an answer for that because legal added that in.
It just,
Um,
but again, so if you're saying someone, that's my designated person.
Right,
So that,
well, I don't know, I mean, I think designated person is like a,
A child.
but I understand
or
what
it's
it
like
is.
the emergency need contact you designated
Yeah, I
person,
understand
I'm
what
not
it
sure.
is.
Yeah, I have to ask, our HR attorney who's not here, what they meant by that.
Yeah, it's just gonna
I'm
be
not sure.
clarified, the person that was designated.
maybe
No, that's,
maybe if they're dependent
Significant others.
Yeah.
Or dependent.
or dependent, yeah.
we
We can ask for
clarification
clarification.
to get that changed to whatever legal thinks it should be. And then in terms of temporary employees, So temporary employee, like I said, is our interns. If we had somebody from the temp agency, they would be a contractor, not an employee.
Okay, yeah, it just
We should
sounded,
define
again, it just sounded curious that, because it says temporary employee. And, you know, it's perhaps defined a little more clearly above that, but. It just sounds like any temporary employee would be granted these benefits. So I just think possibly to clarify that.
Sure. Yeah, it's just our interns, and the only thing they get is sick leave. They don't receive any other benefits from LAVTA.
They don't get vacation, so they're not covered by the PTO.
They do not get PTO, they do not get
They're
health
kind of in a different
benefits.
category.
Exactly.
That's why they have special language.
Yes.
But, okay.
Those were his
That's right.
concerns. Okay. Mayor Brown.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a couple clarifying questions. I'll start at 2.5 acting pay. The change, so I focused on the change, but the last paragraph, acting pay is a percentage of increase over the employee's regular pay rate. It sounds like acting pay is only the percentage over, not base plus the percentage over. And since you removed the term base, but it still should have been base plus a percentage increase over, right? We're not just paying the delta. Okay.
Very true, very true.
Okay, all right, I want to clarify that because everybody should be paid what they
Yes.
earn. And then this is just a question about the administrative office under that hours of work. Is it an hour and a half break at the front office instead of just an hour or? Why is it an hour and a half?
It's an hour and a half because say Jennifer's going to lunch at 12
Mhm.
and she's in the middle dealing with a customer, and sometimes our customers like to take 20 minutes.
Mhm.
This way Jennifer can still go to lunch at 12:20 instead and be able to get back in time
Okay,
before the office opens. So we threw an extra 30 minutes on there just for those things that happen.
Jennifer deserves an hour, right? I just was trying to figure out, she took an hour and a half,
No.
because I'm on that job.
It's just because it tends to happen, like as soon as she either right after she leaves for lunch or right before she goes to lunch, somebody comes in with a really complicated question.
Okay, so it's an up to or something, okay, sort of a general idea, okay. And then on page 13. It is under bereavement,
Mm.
and I want to understand this, because it used to be a paid 5 days of paid bereavement after the loss of a loved one, and now you've said that it's unpaid. I just want to understand why
That's not correct. So the paid / unpaid was put in by our attorney and we left it as unpaid. Because LAVTA has never had bereavement leave paid or unpaid. We always required employees to use their PTO if they needed bereavement leave.
Yeah, so what we're proposing is to change our policy from requiring someone to take their PTO for bereavement to offering up to 5 days of unpaid leave. But I think this is a topic that we'll be discussing.
Yeah, so if you don't
Okay.
mind me interjecting.
Yeah, because I was just gonna give my
So I-
point of view if I could,
Yeah.
that if I lose a child or a spouse, I would like to think that there's some supportive leave time.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
So I've reached out about the same topic, and I think you're prepared to speak about this, so I'll turn it over to you in a second, but I think it should be paid bereavement leave personally. And I don't believe it's a very expensive proposition for us to do it, but you gave me a really detailed response, so.
We don't have bereavement leave very often around here, to be honest with you. It's about once every couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as staff, we're fine with making it paid.
Yeah.
I actually asked my predecessor almost 20 years ago about paid bereavement leave, but was told no. So I think it's a great idea. Christie's on board with it as well.
Sure.
But Christie kind of did some research today
Yeah.
because there does need to be some specifications. on what we
Yeah.
do.
So
So
who would qualify,
Yeah.
what family member?
So the new California law does a good job of specifying who would qualify and how many times per year. What I was looking at was what are other agencies doing? The East Bay Small Transit Operators offer 24 hours, so 3 days of paid bereavement leave. The 3 Tri-Valley cities offer 40 hours paid leave in each city. Vice Chair Grant. Yeah, 5 days total, and it's not an expensive, it's not expensive for us. It costs us approximately $500 per employee per day on average. And as Tamara mentioned, we don't typically see a lot of bereavement leaves, less than 1 or 1 a year. So I think we would definitely be comfortable.
And other agencies do that as well, so like Stopway.
Yeah.
Does.
Yeah.
do that.
So I would propose that we put in the full 40 hours of paid bereavement leave. It's more than the transit agencies and the other cities. And again, it's not a very expensive proposition.
But it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And that would adjust attachment 3 then. On page 13, because that is, I think, the reference for F, bereavement leave. And then with that definition of terms. And then I would even say anything beyond that, maybe you maybe don't need to, it should be personal time off or vacation time or something, so that there are times.
You're
where
not
you need
limited
a
to the
little
5
bit
days.
more time other than that. So, yeah, those were my comments, thank you.
May I finish that comment? On, as long as we're on that same page, on item E for school activity leave, it's a little unclear. It says school activity leave shall be granted to eligible employees, may be entitled to take time off. So there's some grammar problems in that paragraph, but also is school activity leave a shall be granted or a may be granted? And it looks like it's unpaid, but it's not clear until way down at the bottom of that paragraph, so I think we might want to clean that up.
Yeah.
Is that a shall be granted, or is it at the discretion of the manager? We might need to add a little bit of clarity around that.
Yep. I'm gonna defer to Mr. Connor in here. I think this came from legal.
It did, and I'm gonna be honest, I just assumed that they wrote what was legal, and didn't review it.
Okay, well, they didn't
miss
write it
that.
very well.
So.
So we need to get some clarity on that. And then, similarly on G for organ and bone marrow donation leave, it says, it's basically, it defines what it is, but it doesn't say. It's not a shall or a will, or it just defines organ, bone marrow donation leave, grants an employee an unpaid leave of absence, not exceeding 30 days, but it doesn't say who's eligible, do we allow everybody, I'm assuming we're gonna always grant that if
Yeah,
somebody wants to donate organs or bone marrow. But let's clean that up just a little bit. And then there's a formatting issue on that one as well, not in the red one, but in the, actual document, the, text, is gray for some reason under item G.
Yeah, that is true, but there should be also a definition of depth of length, so I don't know how long.
Well, here it says 30, not exceeding 30 business days, but it doesn't say we shall give them that, and it also then says not exceeding 5 business days in a 1-year period, so, it's hard to donate bone marrow and be gone for 5 days, so,
So that's my question,
Yeah.
is that what you're proposing, is 30
5
days?
days.
I would
Yeah.
say 5 days and then take
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah, I
time.
think that's,
So to be honest, it would fall under FMLA if somebody donated and the doctor said they needed to be off 6 months, they get to be off 6 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we just need clarity about,
Unpaid.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking paid.
yeah,
Okay,
it's,
this
this whole thing is unpaid,
yeah,
but, we just need to clean it up a little bit.
So there's up to 30 for an organ donor and up to 5 for a bone marrow. Okay. Thanks, Dave.
oh, okay, okay.
And then if they needed more time off, then it would. fall
Well, they-
into that.
And again, these are things that are entitled to by law that we're
Yeah,
putting in here.
yeah.
So that they're.
But Mike, we're talking about paid versus, there's gotta be somewhere in there, it sounds like, I don't know, we're not taking a vote
And
so
this one
far.
says unpaid.
But are we recommending paid, and then would it be 5 or 30, and those are clarifications maybe be made by what other cities do, it sounds like, it'd be nice to know at least when this comes back.
The 30-day donation would qualify under disability.
So you would prefer to be unpaid, so they can just go to disability?
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's what it reads.
I think that's what.
It's intended to be unpaid. I mean, there's.
Because there's other options for some, for compensation.
Yeah. I think it's in the.
For organ donors and bone marrow.
Well, bone marrow donors, because they're not out as long, and they with a disability. Because disability usually have to be out for more than.
I think that's okay the way it is.
I said, but we do need to say it shall or will,
Yeah.
it needs to have some,
Yeah.
it just
It
defines.
just defines what it is, it doesn't say
Like
leave
leave
shall be
granted.
granted.
Okay, so not seeing any other changes, it sounds like we will hold off on the policy approval until we get the new updated one. I mean, I feel more comfortable.
Congratulations.
All right, so then moving right along, we will go ahead and go to our item number 6 with the regional transportation revenue measure, SB 1030.
Oh, this might be a short update for everyone.
Can I just say I told you so to all of you?
We're right, Mayor. Good afternoon. Again, we are joined today with our colleagues, Andreas and Eric from Townsend, here to provide any answers to questions that I cannot answer. So this is your SB 1031 update as requested at the last board meeting. The big news is that the bill has died.
Yeah.
The bill died
Not
last
long.
Thursday night, early Friday. And so all the updates I was prepared to share with you are not relevant necessarily, but I will share that after the board meeting, we finalized our letter of oppose unless amended. We did send that to the authors, to MTC, and one of our suggested amendments was included in the amendments to the bill on, I think, May 16th. It was an amendment that we suggested about new money should not supplant existing funding sources, really thinking of our barge feeder bus money. Last week, on Tuesday, I went up to Sacramento with the East Bay Coalition, and we met with 5 members of the Assembly from the East Bay delegation. And so, I don't know, I'm not a psychic. I'm not exactly sure why the bill died when it did, but I do think us taking a position when we did was informative to decision makers.
Important, yeah.
And this will come back, as Chair Hernandez said, we fully intend to be having these conversations again later in the year. But now I think we have enough time to actually put together the right bill language. Also, our position is on the record, so the decision makers know what it will take to get LAVTA support on a bill. Andreas or Eric, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Christy, and good afternoon, board members. One thing I will note, in addition to all of the great work that Christy has done on behalf of LAVTA with regards to 1031, is that we also had a meeting, myself, Christy, and Eric, with Senator Wiener's office, in particular his transportation staffer, who has been overseeing SB 1031, and we walked through and explained all of the amendments that we had proposed. And one of the things we also touched on is the fact that for organizations like LAVTA and perhaps others, what would be really beneficial and I think kind of help move the needle along would be language in the actual legislation specifying whether it's a dollar amount or whether it's a percentage and whether it's for a particular project. For example, capital funds and not just operations funds, what each agency would be able to expect coming to them. So that is something we brought up, and that is actually something that Senator Wiener's staffer said, you were really one of the first ones to have that conversation in depth with us, though it's something we have been discussing internally, and the fact that you guys are meeting with us and sharing the concerns and mentioning that is something that could help move the needle does carry a lot of weight, and that makes it easier for us to continue to have those conversations. So really a credit to your executive director for kind of pushing that along and making sure that remains a part of the conversation. That's extremely important to really just flesh out a good expenditure plan, but perhaps even have certain things called out that can give you all as a board a level of certainty as to what to expect before it even hits the ballot. So that's one item. I'll now hand it over to my colleague Eric to see if I missed anything, or if he wants to also provide a little bit of color commentary for your situational awareness on why the bill stopped when it did and kind of what next steps look like, timeline, and all of that.
Thanks, Andres. Yes, thank you all. I think it's important to to acknowledge both the work that LAVTA has done and other agencies in working with the authors to try to find solutions. I think that that's important. I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks to the bill, going forward this year was Senator Cortese from San Jose area got up on the Senate floor and spoke at length about his objection to the bill. And I think that given the fact that this bill includes the idea of a regional measure, and a regional measure takes a majority to pass or more, depending on the measure. Not having support of members in the South Bay really kind of messaged that there needs to be more work to be done before this bill can move forward. That being said, timeline wise, it really isn't impactful. The bill doesn't pass this year because the effort was always centered around the idea of a 2026 measure, which could be put on the ballot as late as June of 2026. So there is time for this measure to be, more thoughtfully discussed over the fall and over next year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this becomes a 2-year bill in the next legislative session, which creates a lot of opportunity for us to engage with the authors and to seek, amendments that really will make us comfortable and make, I think people, all of our communities in the East Bay more comfortable with the concepts being put forward. And we're happy to answer any other questions you guys might have.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question. Well, part of the pushback from South Bay was the return to source language, correct? Which is of course part of our concern as well. So how open are the two authors on specific guardrails around the return to source? Do we have a sense of that?
Well, my understanding is they're open to whatever it takes to get this done. Our experience with Senator Wiener in particular is that he wants to have positive results. Like, he is not going to push a thing just because he thinks he's right and everyone else is wrong. He does push very strong on his policy objectives, but he is a person who listens. And the fact of the matter is, the Bay Area, every time a regional measure of any sort gets discussed, has this push and pull of regional prioritization versus local control of funds. And the South Bay is a large population center, but perhaps some people, especially people at MTC, would argue that there's more need in the more Central Bay, Oakland, San Francisco area for this funding, and that's going to make people in the San Jose area uncomfortable. Same with the East Bay, as for RM3, the big RM3 battles over the raising of toll fees. It seemed like those revenues were going to go and benefit this, Bay-centric areas, and East Bay residents were going to pay for them, and that was a huge battle for East Bay members to fight. And so there's going to be conversations continuing. I think that the return to source is a big issue. And will be, I don't know how it's going to be sorted out, but it's going to be a whole lot more clear than the existing bill is. It will have to be, or they just won't get the support they need to even pass the measure, regardless of the bill passing. So that would be my guess. Andres, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think you covered it really nicely, Eric. Just again, for everyone's situational awareness, where things left off with the bill language was that they were proposing a 70% return to source based on county as a whole. And then after the first 5 years, that 70% return to source would increase to 90% return to source. So while there is a return to source provision that is relatively explicit and a pretty high percentage, it's not as explicit as it could be. And I think one of the concerns and one of the arguments, and I think something that probably everyone shares, is the idea of, okay, yeah, a return to source and then to a county, but what does that mean specifically? How does that get divvied up? Where does the ultimate discretion lie? And I think that's just kind of a concern that is held, but not necessarily a concern that was expressed in those exact ways on the Senate floor. And then, in addition to that, 70%, while that's, and then 90% respectively after 5 years, while that's still a high amount, that doesn't mean it's, hey, we get whatever we put in, so some folks may say, well, I want it even higher, even though it's a higher percent. So those are a lot of things to consider. But for the most part, as Eric mentioned, I think return to source and then additional specificity around the definition of what that source is going to be a major topic of contention ultimately.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hopper.
Yeah, so I don't know if this was any of the discussion or not, but things that concern land use and housing and affordable housing and transportation both have a nexus in my mind and in the minds of, I know at least our Alameda County Transportation Commission, around jobs, housing, balance. South Bay refuses to build housing and yet continues to devote land use, permits, building, construction of jobs upon jobs upon jobs, 17 jobs for every one home that they build. They are the source, the root of all creation of our transportation problems. And they don't want to pay for transportation. No. They should be paying the entire bill for the transportation woes that they cause. And yet they don't. And I don't know why. And yet it's our communities that suffer long commutes. I don't want to approve any spending for projects that just help them build more jobs. So if or when are we ever going to wake up? The point being that there's only a few. I mean, how many legislators can come from Santa Clara? Why doesn't the rest of the state recognize this and just come to some real solutions? I don't understand it. But has that ever been brought up in a discussion around a transportation project, a bill of this kind, to say we support transportation funding, but it's got to come with some changes to our jobs, housing balance, or find somewhat, what are possible solutions to that? A sliding scale or something to force housing to be built where the jobs are, or force jobs to be placed where the housing is. Any bright ideas?
I think thank you for the question, Supervisor. I think the bright ideas and as well as the context on those types of conversations and maybe forcing certain people's hands would actually be best provided by Eric. I'll chime in after, but Eric was the chief consultant for Assembly Transportation Committee in the legislature, so he's kind of seen it and heard it from all angles. So he would probably have some good responses for you.
Thanks, Andres. And Supervisor, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a challenge that is not unknown or actually even unique. It's the kind of challenge that you find all over the country. But on the other hand, I think that it isn't necessarily the East Bay representatives that the authors are worried about. I think that it is the votes of a regional measure that they're worried about. And if, Senator Cortese and others, or, Senator Glazer out here in the East Bay, or Senator Dodd in the North counties, are actively campaigning against a regional measure, not being able to count on a lot of those votes is going to sink the effort all in all, right? And in particular, Senator Cortese in South Bay, as you know, has a large portion of the Bay Area's population. And so, yes, absolutely, that is an issue that MTC thinks about all the time. They've thought about it as long as I've been doing this, so at least 16 years. Housing jobs balance, I think you're aware of their efforts in that arena. And yes, absolutely, a committee consultant who is analyzing the bill as it goes through the process next year should bring this issue up, and the legislature should discuss it. As for solutions, you're a politician, sir. You know that political solutions are sometimes hard to come by. when it comes to issues like that. But I would love to think that we can get there in the next 16 months, 18 months, and have a measure that everyone can be supportive of when it gets to the ballot. Because as you know, being part of LAVTA's board and you know anything about transit in the Bay Area, we need the money. You know, the Bay Area needs more help with its transit systems.
The state seems to be very eager to take away local control in some ways.
Yeah.
This is another perfect example. I mean, just include in it something that says, you know, rezone all of Santa Clara's open space to residential, and you can have all of our transportation dollars.
I'm with you, sir. I think you should run for the assembly. That sounds like a swell bill. I'll be right there with you.
If I may, I'll note because Eric mentioned it, but I'll just hammer on it. You know, when he says, you know, whichever committee consultant in the respective houses, and whether it be in transportation committee or revenue and taxation committees, respectively, are reviewing this bill and then making staff commentary. And he said, you know, that's something they can bring up is the further or deeper consideration of jobs, housing, transportation, land use balance. Those are things that we can do as advocates to kind of remind them more so than gently, but very sternly remind them this is something that should be considered as they evaluate and give their staff comments to the respective committee members before it's considered before their policy committees. And the nice thing is, at the end of the day, you know, whether it's coming from me or especially coming from, you know, my colleague Eric, because he was the person who used to be there calling those shots and making those analyses. They do listen, and we hold very good relationships with those committee consultants. So supervisor, I think everything that you mentioned and things that should be considered, you know, much further are things we can convey to those people. So we'll make sure to do that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Townsend. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Andres or Eric, did this happen to die in finance for any chance because there's cost overhead for the state? It's one question. The second is, at least there's rumors on the street that a lot of the funds, it's great return to source, but a lot of the funds will be going to supplement, for example, an existing organization like BART. Senator Winter's already brought forward some bills to try to support BART in difficult times that they are having right now. But that small organizations like Wheels will suffer because of the money's going to a larger organization, regional, that in all honesty, we do have two blessed and fortunate to have two BART stations in Dublin and Pleasanton, but none of them go to the South Bay, where it is stated a lot of jobs are. So how to make sure the funding goes where it's going to benefit the region and for the voters to be able to support it. Seems like that's missing on the bill.
Yeah, first of all, the bill didn't die in a fiscal committee. It was pulled by the authors, and they just decided to not pursue the bill. It didn't die. I mean, in theory, they could take it back up tomorrow if they wanted to. That doesn't happen very often. But no, it didn't die because of the costs, although there are costs involved. But more importantly, your question is exactly the concern that I think your executive director was raising with the author's office. I mean, to say that 70% of the revenue collected in Alameda County will be spent in Alameda County could mean that all of it goes to service and on the BART service, right? That runs through Alameda County, which in turn does not help our service much at all. In particular, if they don't, you know, give us money back for the BART feeder buses. You know, and that's true in most of the Bay Area. Is you know, so that's the clarification that really needs to be sought after. Is what do you mean by return to source, and for what purpose? You know, is this money being raised in order to turn out all of our systems into, you know, world-class great systems, or is this money being raised to, you know, ensure that the, you know, commuter lines, the biggest commuter lines are well maintained to the, you know, to the detriment of the rest of our services? And that I'm pretty sure that's why Pro Tem McGuire wanted to combine Ms. Wahab's effort with Mr. Wiener's effort, because he sees, one and like, half of one and 6 dozen of the other, or the other way around, 6 of one and half dozen of the other, in those two issues. But Andres,
Because
It actually passed 26 to 10.
because we need to think of that last mile. So it's great that you get
Mhm.
somebody into the region, but where's that last mile? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? That's any other questions? Do we have any public comment?
No.
All right, anything else, Christie, on that? No, okay, thank you.
I have a question, I'm sorry, one last question,
Sure.
a 0.5% sales tax. Some of us are could be up near the limit. How can you get a 0.5% sales tax if that puts you over 11%?
Raise the roof.
I think they,
That was
one of the, elected officials, one of their staff, we brought this question up, I think it was Ortega, Assemblymember Ortega. And her staff, said that we're already at the max or near the max in Alameda County, but this would be exempt.
Oh, you can do that.
That is the word. Yeah.
We're the legislature is exempt.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Use it in the capital, you can do that, okay.
When you write the rules, you can change the
Exactly.
I
rules.
guess so, yeah. Okay.
If I could just make a
The little
comment.
variance.
I think one of the concerns is there's different taxing rates, and Clara's argument was that they've already passed all these taxes to cover the part budget. But it's just hard in individual cities and individual counties when all the rates are different, to come in with a blanket rate. And that's the challenge with a measure like this, is it doesn't fit right.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna, I think it's the Bradley Burns, is that the name of the cap? That, it's not only that, but timing wise, right? I think Smart
Yeah.
is going for in 26. So there's a lot of elbowing in this whole process, and different agencies, different jurisdictions, different numbers. What's palatable in my city?
Yeah.
If we need one for the city, if we're gonna go over 10%, is that gonna turn all the voters out? All that stuff. So it's quite a mix of.
I'm glad I'm not doing the accounting on that.
Yeah.
All right, we have no public comment. So we will go ahead and move on to our favorite time of the year, the election of the LAVTA chair and the vice chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hernandez.
Before
So,
we actually release.
oh, yeah, Eric and Andres, you can please. Feel free
Unless
to
you
leave,
want to
unless
stay
you want to watch.
the next chair, vice chair going.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.
So this is our last meeting of the fiscal year where you elect your next chair and vice chair for the upcoming fiscal year. For fiscal 25, the rotation falls to Livermore for the chair and to Pleasanton for the vice chair. And then the following year, fiscal 26, Pleasanton will be chair and County of Alameda will be vice chair. I can take any questions.
Any questions?
Are you interested? Oh, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, you can have it. Oh, no, I've done it twice.
Okay, in that case, I will nominate Evan Branning for chair and Councilmember Julie Testa for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay. We should have talked sooner, I don't know.
We're wondering.
Now that would, so she cannot then, can she be vice chair, Councilmember Tester? And also be chair of finance?
No,
and
we'll have to switch the committee assignments. That will be before the board in July. Yeah, so we'll move.
Okay,
we'll move the
adjust.
positions around, yes.
Wonderful.
Any,
There was no public comment.
okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, so I will go ahead. We have a motion and a second. Please go ahead and take that roll.
Okay, Vice Chair Branning.
Aye.
Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Hubbard,
Aye.
Dr. Josie. Aye. Livermore alternate Marshawn.
Aye.
Dr. Testa. And Chair Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's always a fun one. No one ever argues. Number 8 is our executive director report.
Thank you. Kicking it off with good news. Your month of April ridership represents the first full month of post Wheels in Motion service change. And we are seeing positive ridership results. Average weekday boardings are up almost 20% year over year. We can't take all the credit for the Wheels in Motion change because some of that is just returning, just the pandemic returning to normal. But we're very pleased with that. And we're seeing increases on Saturdays and Sundays. And specifically, your rapid lines, 10R and 30R are up by 30% and 23% year over year. So we're really excited. We're going to continue to monitor the routes, and we will be bringing you a detailed route performance report later in the year. We want to give the route some time to, materialize, but we're very excited. Moving to other challenges, the dairy detour in Pleasanton. So we just wanted to bring up that we have been working hand in hand with your wonderful staff in the city of Pleasanton on our dairy debacle. So
Delicious dairy.
delicious dairy, yeah, so,
One of the top 10 in the country.
That's right.
yes.
Number 8, yeah.
So, starting today, we implemented, it'll be our dairy detour throughout the summer. There's a map included in your packet, but essentially your eastbound buses, have no impact. The westbound buses, basically going from Livermore to Pleasanton, instead of making that right on Neal Street, right by the park, they will continue down to Burnell and Old Burnell. This isn't ideal. We workshopped several different options. We had a different detour last year. And so the city is really helping us with striping and restricting some left turns, particularly from, I think, Old Burnell onto Burnell. So our bus has a hard time making that right turn. So it's not ideal, but I think, we're staying on top of it, and we're asking our customers to be patient with us because this is adding some time to the schedule. I think next year, given the popularity of the dairy, what we'll probably do is look at a special schedule for the 10R in the summertime, where we can add some extra time so the bus isn't running late. We can reorient which connections is making it hard. So that's our thought for next year.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Mayor,
Well, when you're done, as I see this route, I see it goes past the library, which is a wonderful thing since we're doing free student rides in the summer. Could that be, if I dare say, an actual nice route to keep and retain? So students that can, you're truncating that whole loop of downtown by going Strock, Neal, and across. I just wonder for consideration if it could be thought about as you're going to not only the library, you're going to a couple other shopping, dining experiences, and then do a simple reroute around. And that also, going one step further, as Herb was mentioning, concert in the park, it gives you a challenge on Neal. But if you went straight past the bus, not you personally, but if the buses continued on a route and looped that end of Main Street, it might pick up a couple more riders.
It is definitely a possibility. It would mean we would have to abandon those beautiful shelters on Neal.
Which is remarkable.
Okay.
One
All right. I won't say no. I think everything's on the table. I don't like Neal. It's very narrow. We do want to serve downtown. I think 10 to 15% of the 10's ridership comes from downtown, from the stops downtown. So we want to keep serving it, but I think that's something we can explore further.
What do you think? As a Pleasanton?
So, we did get an email that, one of the, frequent writers, and he felt it added a considerable amount of time. So what are we estimating that it's taking?
I think it's taking another 5 minutes.
Oh, that's
probably,
all. It sounded from his email like it was way more than that.
I can look at his specific trip, but the buses would be taking extra time on Neal Street anyway, just they're stuck in the queue of cars for the dairy. So we'll be watching the on-time performance of the route, and if there's anything we can do in an interim fashion, we'll look to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but my understanding is it should be about 5 minutes extra time.
I just love it to go by the library, because it's a pretty heavy walk from Neal all the way to the library.
Okay, it looks like we have a public comment online.
We do. Can you go ahead and?
Yeah. Hi, Herb, can you hear us? Oh, there you go, Herb, you can unmute yourself. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, Christy, you just made my day. not only do I disagree with the relocation, I do understand the purpose of Neal Street being a traffic jam at Concert Park night, which I enjoyed the free crosswalk. But we need to stop. Why don't you just use the DeLucchi bus?
That's the one on First Street. That's the fair.
Right, because you're already going down that street, and that's where you should have it, not 2 blocks down the street. And I'd like to have a discussion offline with you regarding this as well, because I know a group of people would really want to say something as well.
Yeah. I think for that to happen, we would need to make improvements in front of the stop on northbound First Street. You may recall, we talked about this about a year ago, adding in an extension of the concrete pad, and it would require removal of trees. So I just, absolutely worth exploring.
This is in front of Lisa.
DeLucchi. So there's a house, the bus stop that we would use if we were to institute a permanent detour is right in front of someone's house. On the corner of First and Neal.
But sorry, this direction, you've made a change is coming, so the bus stop is on the park side.
Right.
Not the house side, so this route has nothing to do with that.
No, you're right. I think I was interpreting your comments to mean we should have this route do this detour in both directions. So we would permanently move it from Neal and have the bi-directional service near the library.
I'll let you decide that. That wasn't not necessarily my comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
It sounds like Christy needs to go for ice cream.
I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna, Christy, or
Christy will can talk to you offline.
Carla, excuse me. The basic description is the one stop is across from DeLucchi's Park. There's a house and there's a piece of grass. And I'm going to try to make this short. One of the issues that one of the members has always said is to get off there, the drivers are putting the passengers into the grass on the front door of the bus. Instead of, so we want to be able to see if we can extend the concrete pad so that the passenger doesn't step into the lawn. Because if you drive by there, there's a piece of grass about 4 feet long. And the drivers are just putting the passengers into the grass. And that's the eastbound side. The other side is correct. So that's what we need to correct. That's what needs to be fixed. It's been like 10 years that way, and no one's done anything over there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll jump off before I get hung. See you guys.
I'll talk to you later. The dairy detour. Okay, moving on.
I'm not sure what happened, but I can't hear you anymore, Christy. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden it went quiet.
Okay, sorry about that. All
I can
right.
hear you now.
I was just noting that the Dublin Transit Center ribbon cutting is June 13th, and that Supervisor Hubbard, you'll be there attending with some remarks about the project. We have our Youth Ride Free Summer promotion that kicked off a few days ago. You may hear us on the radio promoting Youth Ride Free. We have some social media advertising. We also worked with all the schools to send out notifications before the end of school. And I wanted to just give you some exciting news on our transit app usage. So we have been working to try to push people as much as possible to transit app. It's a really user-friendly app for trip planning. And we have our stats in your packet looking at April 24 compared to a year ago. And our number of riders that have opened the app has increased over 50%. The number of times that the riders open the app has almost doubled. And the number of downloads of the app has gone from 192 to 244. So we're seeing really great metrics there. Before I move to finance and admin, I must remember to share that we will be in the rodeo parade with the Rideo bus on Saturday. I'm super excited. It's my first time attending the Livermore Rodeo, so I will be there with my large family.
The
So
world's fastest rodeo.
that's what I hear. So my expectations are really high.
Now, the horses aren't any quicker, but they have more gaits than anybody else, so it happens in more rapid succession.
I'm looking forward to it. And the weather looks beautiful. Moving on to finance and admin, we are preparing our grant application for cycle 7 of the state's transit and intercity capital improvement program. We will be seeking funding for our Atlantis facility, and applications are due July 23rd. Thank you to our Alameda CTC commissioners for approving our $600,000 paratransit discretionary grant program to fund Wheels Access, expanding mobility options in the Tri-Valley. This will help us establish a new mobility management program to provide individualized consultations and travel training. It will continue the popular parataxi reimbursement with our PEX card, and it will provide some operating support within Alameda County for our one-seat ride paratransit service.
Unanimously approved.
Yes, unanimously approved. Thank you. In July, the 2024 American Public Transportation Association's board member seminar is taking place in San Jose. I wanted to bring this up to you all in the event you wanted to attend. It is July 13th through 16th. If you are interested in registering, please reach out to me and we can sign you up. And we are releasing the strategic plan RFP in June. So that's been a long time coming. Also in your packet, you have stats from April 2024. The executive director's report incorrectly says March, but it is April. Again, you'll see the great trends that we're seeing for our fixed route system. Everything is going in the right direction. On-time performance slipped a little. We'll probably enjoy some better on-time performance in the summer months, with the exception of on the 10R near the dairy.
I was gonna say, must be the dairy.
Must be the dairy. And then I'll just highlight, as reported to you last month, our Go Tri-Valley ridership has decreased significantly in April, and May is actually 2% lower than April. So everything is going in the right directions, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Not seeing any questions? We'll go ahead on to item number 9, which is our matters initiated by the board of directors.
Just a quick comment. I was back in Washington, DC with a delegation from the Alameda County Transportation Commission. Lisa Marquez and Joel Young from Gillard. They're out there in Chair Bowders. Had some great meetings. Met with Senator Padilla and of course Solnier and Swalwell. Met with DOT and actually was describing what great things happened in the Tri-Valley. We actually looked at each other like, wow. And so we made a tremendous impression. Talking a lot about hydrogen and the Atlantis facility and Gillig tooling up for hydrogen powered buses and that AC Transit really leads the nation in hydrogen fuel buses. So great advocacy, a lot of excitement back in DC, and hopefully that'll translate to additional money because there are several grants that are being proposed right now, and it seemed like there was a lot of enthusiasm around those grants. So hopefully we'll get some good news back from DC. It was a great trip.
I heard your nickname is Laser Beam.
I sort of took off what was happening with Lawrence and NIF, and that was what really inspired the DOT. Like, wow, you have 500 trillion watts of power. So yeah.
I enjoyed that conversation. I watched it.
That was on the ACT.
That was very funny.
We're supposed to find out what John Bowder's nickname is.
I understand that's going to come at a different time. And I'm going to leave that to Director Young. He's going to daylight that one.
Good, glad you enjoyed it. You guys had great weather too.
Yeah, it was very good. It rained, quite a bit, but,
Oh, it did?
yeah, but it's okay, it's all right. Yeah, as long as it's not snow, I'm happy.
Yeah, because when you get
January.
just down in DC when it snows.
Yeah, we've been there.
We were there in
But
January.
it was fine, it was good.
Oh, good.
It was funny, the White House was closed off. You couldn't even walk the promenade.
Yeah.
The ellipse was closed.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens rarely, but you couldn't even get on the ellipse.
Wow.
But it was a great trip.
Glad you guys had a great trip.
Really excited about the World War One monument. That's gonna be finished next month. And that's stunning.
On the mall.
Yeah, it's just stunning.
Right, not seeing any other comment, we will go ahead in the next meeting that you all will be in, and I will not, will be July 1st, 2024. I just wanted to say, thank you for, being a good group of individuals. I've been honored to be able to work with all of you for many years. I know some more than others. But definitely, again, I'm not leaving far. I'm sure you'll have me with regards to SB 1031. My thoughts are if and, you you let one agency go, it affects everybody, so it's a trickle down effect, so remember that. Because of the fact that it's, during COVID, all the transit agencies were hurt tremendously, so there's a lot of things that need to be worked on at BART, but definitely, we will try. They're obviously going to get almost maybe 5 of the board members are new board members, so there'll be a lot of changes coming forward. But again, just wanted to say thank you. I will see you around town. I'll see you around the Tri-Valley, and I'll be representing all of our 3 cities and then more. So it's been an honor to be able to have all of you wonderful colleagues for so many years. Always fighting for our for the Tri-Valley. So look forward to that.
Are we going to have cake now?
That's tomorrow.
Ice cream.
I thought
That's
you,
tomorrow.
And I came here specifically for this meeting.
I thought you got it, babe. Did you get it?
I should have brought cake. We need to do a plaque or
Tell me I'm
something.
cookies, I'm getting every meeting.
All right, with that, enjoy your meeting on July 1st, 2024. And our meeting is adjourned at 5:02. All right.
Turned out just right as the transition